So Noita is another really interesting game. It also looks very pixely. I should point out Starbound looks a lot more cutesy and polished than either Terraria or Noita. Noita
Yeah.
has a very rough feel to it.
Yeah.
By design.
Well, it's also
Why don't you
awesome
tell us a
because
little bit about Noita? What's a Noita?
Noita again it's a roguelike, isn't it? Where you start once you die, that's it. You just restart from the very beginning. So you only have one life essentially. That is my understanding because I've not gone deep enough yet. And you go into the mines and you go and find different wands. You can find different upgrades, but it also has a systemic gameplay where if you set fire to something like wood, it will burn. If you set fire to, if you stand in water, you're wet for a bit, which I'm guessing makes you more vulnerable to
So
electric or something
the interesting thing
along
here is
those lines.
they wrote their own game engine so that every pixel could have physical properties.
Yeah.
Mass and gravity and strength and is it burnable? Does it float? Is it corrosive? Like all these other things.
And you will choke if you're in smoke. So if you manage to set fire to the mine and you're just in a bit where the smoke's going to come up and fill, yeah, you're going to suffocate.
Oh, the corrosive acid is highly flammable, and so it allows you to really, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's systemic. Yeah, systemic design. There's a lot of systemic gameplay where you know how things will behave. They're randomly generated.
Yeah.
But you can plan ahead for them or cause hilarious accidents where huge tons of burning acid land on your head. Or you've got to swim through it to get to the exit.
When Yan manages to pick up a boomerang grenade wand.
Now, in my defense, I picked
what
up
does this do?
An explosive boomerang wand. And Mikey said, how does that work? And I went, I don't know. Let's find out. Now, I should have thought explosive, boomerang. These are not words I want to put together. But I did not think that.
It appears you have died.
So Noita is one of these games, like a real roguelike, which is an interesting phrase by itself, but insanely difficult. And I am so bad at that game. And I know part of it is you keep playing it and you develop the expertise and you get good at it. But
yeah.
I sort of play these games for a while and go, yeah, I'm just bad at this. Curse of the Necrodancer is another good one.
Oh, I love that game. That's
I did play a lot of Rogue Legacy and started getting okay at it. But okay was as good as I got.
So with Noita, one of the things that I've personally realised whilst playing it, again, it being very, very difficult, is it seems to be a game that would fall under a high score game. You know, there is no real. I don't know. There might be an end of the game, but
there is.
But it appears at the moment like there isn't an end to the game. It's just you progress and you progress and you progress. So it looks like a high score system.
Biomes and enemies and bosses and all kinds of stuff.
So I think I found an egg. If you go all the way to the left of the map, you can go up on the tree, and if you jump and kind of pulse your jumping ability, you can get onto the egg. I picked up the egg, and then something spawned that chased me and killed me. I didn't. Yeah. Oh, and then if you go into the little thing, there's a curse that means that you get like 50% more gold or 2-3 times more gold, but the ground you're on becomes toxic and will kill you. Yep. With a delay, so you land on it. This area is now forbidden. Yeah. So, I didn't last very long.
Really cool stuff with that game. It's a real example of how to put some interesting randomization stuff in there. Yeah. Like what happens if we allow you to customize the wand. This one will just do random attacks. Are you going to use it? This one will do zigzag style attacks, and this one will do lightning and chain lightning and all the rest of it. You can just pull bits out, and put them into your wand, and it will calculate like how much energy you're going to need for it and stuff like that. Or you could just go set fire to a barrel and kick it over the edge and watch everything explode.
Every time I've tried that so far, I've set fire to the barrel, and when I've kicked it, it's exploded.
Yeah. But it's a really interesting game. Like, it's the idea of a fully physically simulated pixel game is just very smart. And if you're not writing your own engine, that is so intensive. Because I remember you and I thought, well, what happens if we try and do that in Godot? Will Godot like it? And the answer is no. No, it doesn't.
Not unless your pixels are large.
Or if you're doing 1900 by 1200 and each one of those pixels is a physical property and you start moving them, it'll go, no.
There has to be
you will optimize this.
Yes. Yeah, you definitely have to optimize that because it's just so much data being thrown around. But yeah, I mean it's 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 one of those games that keeps drawing me back to it, and I feel like I was getting quite good, and then I died lots. So I think the RNG, as they say, is was with me on one playthrough. I was like, oh, I'm getting get no, and I will say,
Hey, it does.
hi, Daz. Yeah, I will say that typically I hate randomness in games, but I've also I've constrained that down to the point that, say we've had this conversation with XCOM. You've got a world class sniper as your character, and he misses a shot from like 2 yards away. It's like, well, the probability's right. You're going to miss some shots, but from a player's perspective, if you've not got direct control, i.e., you're not moving the crosshairs over the target, you expect world class sniper to not miss a close shot.
So there was a really interesting video about this from what's the name of that game design channel?
GK Game Maker's Toolkit.
Game Maker's Toolkit. On randomness, and he posited that there are two kinds of randomness: one where the input is randomized, and one where the output is randomized. So one where you can do something consistently each time but get a random output is not always a good idea.
Well, you can't learn.
It can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
And that would include things like, okay, you have a 90% chance to hit. And so as a human with logical fallacies in my brain, I'm thinking, well, if I miss the last shot, I'm good for the next 9.
Yeah.
But that's not how statistics work.
No. Yeah, and it can be incredibly frustrating. I used to play a game absolutely tons called Jagged Alliance. It was an isometric mercenary game, very XCOM in style. I think it was in between the original XCOM and the remakes and everything. And it had those frustrations in it. It also had the frustrations of you'd just gone up against an army with your 6 mercenaries, and all they dropped was a tin of beans and a napkin, and
Yeah, they just
none of
eat all their
yeah,
guns.
none of the weapons or ammo that was being used against you moments ago.
That's one nice thing about zombie games is, okay, this one was carrying 3 bits of paper and a toothpick,
All
but it
right,
was a zombie.
yeah.
Like it didn't arm itself.
So we were talking earlier about how games establish themselves and how you go through a tutorial. One of the best games recently, and again we're segueing away from old school graphics for a moment, is Doom Eternal. It actually
Mm.
explains to you this is the core game loop. You know, if you need health or ammo, you're going to have to play like this. You know, there's no ambiguity about how you're going to play. The first time I ever played the game, I hated it because I just dismissed those screens and didn't bother reading them. I was like, yeah, I know how to play a first person shooter.
Well, okay, you're saying the best opening for a game, but if
As
we're
in
putting them as static
tutorial wise.
screens,
Oh,
right? But if we're putting them as
they're
static screens, the
dynamic.
player doesn't want to read.
Hmm.
Okay,
They're
but even
dynamic.
so,
They'll
like
show you what's going on.
if you have a bunch of screens coming up that the player doesn't want to read, is it working?
I probably should have read them. That's but the second time I played through, because I read the little I was like, "Oh, I understand now. Fine." And I'm loving the game now. It's very
Mm.
immersive. It's a very flow state. Once you get into the groove of
But
it,
it's interesting
it's
because Noita goes the other direction, and Noita's opening is excellent. You just walk. There's just you,
it says
and there's the
WASD.
entrance to a cave.
Yeah.
There's WSD, so you press those buttons, you see you move around, and you go into the cave. Like everyone goes into the cave because that's what's interesting. You don't have to, but that's what's interesting. And then there's a thing saying you move your mouse, you move your mouse. There's a thing saying left mouse button, so you do the left mouse button, you see that. There's a thing saying this button to kick, so you press that button to kick, and the barrel goes over the edge. And
Yeah.
that's it. That's everything you get. Everything else you have to figure out by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very I suppose it's got a very simple mechanic. You can only do a certain number of things in the game. You can use
Well,
your
I think there's a lot
potions.
to learn,
Yeah.
but you need to figure them out as you go. That's the whole point.
Yeah. We've had a couple of comments. So,
We have
oh yeah, I really
Ratchet and
enjoyed.
Clank. Goodness, that takes me back.